We are live. So this is another Friday. Uko sawa Victor?
Uko sawa kabisa.
So we have a very important guest. She's a music curator, a podcaster.
Yeah.
She's so many things. Atatuambia tu time. So welcome to the studio, Abigail.
Thank you.
Abigail of Ongeza Volume.
Ongeza Volume, yes.
Yeah.
Damn.
So tumekuwa even like you are the one who uko kwa the screen and stuff. So yeah. So mazee.
Mimi ni mu important.
Masana zaidi man.
So si tutakuwa tu kwa nini kwa background kitu nini.
Yeah. Niko shy.
By the way, like how is the posters and the whatever. Mentions zangu leo zimejazz nini like those mkona poster yenye uliunda and the tweets that you made.
Yeah.
They were nini zilikuwa na attraction mbaya sana.
Mimi ni celebrity na msee. Kumbe mnanipenda god.
Soul high.
So other
people ni kama wananipenda.
Najua tutapull numbers leo.
Mafans wako hapo nini?
Karibuni.
Tuanza wapi?
Wiki
na maswali. Umekuwa unajua karibu akose kufika juu ya some unavoidable circumstances.
Kwa nini? Sendombe sahi.
Kwa nini mimi ninaanza? Sio ndio ulikuwa unaanza kusema kuhusu wiki yako?
Wewe ni kienyeji. Wewe ni mwenyeji. So this studio basically Radio 254 their mandate is to like just play Kenyan music, yes. Showcase Kenyan talent and all that. And where you're a perfect fit juu ya how you've been doing it like ulianza na playlists and then events and then doing your thing with the podcast and all that stuff. So how did you start? Like I see before the podcast like everything, how did it start?
Like nilifeel your spark.
Ama like ulianza na nini? Juni ilikuwa gradual ulifeel your spark.
I don't know, I feel like nimekuwa nikipenda live events from kitambo. From a very long time ago tukiendanga concerts za sijui Conscience before COVID and all that. That was even before I started highly consuming Kenyan music. So I think time ya COVID when we were all cooped up kwa manyumba and we were just watching stuff on YouTube. Nilikama across content yenye niliget kupenda.
So content here on YouTube?
On YouTube. I'd see easy my live concerts za indoor like house concerts. Zilikuwa
hiyo time ya COVID kwenye watu walikuwa kufanya live.
Exactly. Alafu wasanii walikuwa wanatoa a lot of music because that is all they can do. Wako cooped up inside, they can't perform.
Wako home too.
Wanatoa mangoma, wanafanya hizo wanaingia Instagram live, wanaingia YouTube live and I think manze unamka basha kifanya 24 hours jini man. So we were just all trying to look for something to do. So kwa hizo harakati I think me and my fam we consumed a lot of Kenyan music stuff, a lot of Kenyan content. Akina Mutoria wakicheza uko live, akina Bensol, all that stuff. So me and my sisters we were just like consuming a lot of it. So by the time tulikuwa tunatoka after COVID, tumeona hizo ma live events on YouTube tuko like hizi vitu lazima tuanze kuziattend bana. Kwani tulikuwa tunangoja COVID ndio tufikirie mbona hatujakuwa tukienda hizi events. So I think that is when now we started proactively attending Kenyan music events.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hiyo ni pre-COVID, ni during the COVID times.
During COVID.
And then ulianza curating music lini?
I used to do playlists for myself, lakini sikuwa nazishare. Like niko na playlist ya kila kitu, study playlist, shower playlist, lakini nilikuwa naziweka zikwe private. So kuna time yenye
so hizi playlists zilikuwa kwa Spotify ama
kwa
simu?
Spotify. Ni Spotify. So nilikuwa
wewe ndio una Spotify.
Nilikuwa but tulianzanga na YouTube. Nakumbuka kuna siku tulikuwa na bash home and we were creating a Kenyan music YouTube playlist with my sister, shout out Barbara. So tulikuwa tunazitengeneza ndio ati wase wakikam tutasikiza hiyo
or like hakuna nini, hakuna ati kushinda ukishangaa what you are playing
exactly
next and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's convenient. And then now going to personal stuff now, if I want to do my work ninajua nataka kusikiza ngoma 1 2 3 najitengenezea. So I started sharing this playlist with my family and my friends, and they were like wewe sianze kututengenezea playlist jinaka ni kama curation yako iko fit
on point.
So the first playlist I released publicly was last year in November. Nilitengeneza ya Waziwazi Festival. Waziwazi Festival was an event purely Kenyan lineup. It was organized by kina Brandy Maina, kina Mutoria, kina Watendawili, Ethan Muziki. It was a purely Kenyan lineup happening at Winning Post. So I was like this lineup inakafiti na tunasikizanga hizi ngoma even Charisma. So nika decide kutengeneza playlist ya Waziwazi, and it flew.
So Waziwazi hiyo playlist when you uliunda ni the composition ilikuwa the songs that were played there ama the songs from these artists.
So how I made it, since I'd already listened to these artists, nilikuwa na and I'd attended some shows. So I had like a gist of ni mangoma gani zinaweza perform. Yes. And which songs are performable.
Uliunda prior to
the event.
Like
I used to call them revision playlists. So since sikuwa nasikiza, kuna artists wenye sikuwa nasikizanga at that time. Akina I wasn't listening to Ethan that much. I wasn't listening to Charisma that much. So I took it up to myself. I was like, since nasikizanga Brandy na kina Mutoria, let me make a playlist for all the artists. Itanisaidia ku revise. So I kept on listening to that playlist, and then I shared it. And then kumbe watu walikuwa na the same opinion. Like they listened to either 1 or 2 artists during the event, but hao wengine wana float. But by listening to that playlist, at least by the time event inafika, watakuwa at least wana sing along to chorus or something. So nilianza sana revision playlists.
So ikanini zika gain traction hiyo
yani, especially Waziwazi. It had like I think on like 70 something ads. I wasn't expecting that much traction for the first playlist. So ndio nika figure out, niko like okay, ni kama watu wako idhaa ya hizi vitu. So every time there was an event that people knew I was attending, they would request.
Oh, you do say,
Abi bedhe si tutengeneze revision playlist. Kuna mangoma zenye atuski, kuna artist wenye atuski, utatusaidia to revise.
Do you like for easy events kuna those maybe headliners?
Yeah, headliners, and then kuna hao wengine. So the idea is you want to make sure that hauboeki.
Na pia like nini husikizi ati one person, exactly. And then
at time nyingine unaenda unatafuta sijui food, sijui wapi mzururo, So you know to kaida event. So so ikaendelea hivyo. The next event was like Soulfest.
Soulfest.
So wakaitisha tena playlist ya last year, 2022. Wakaitisha tena playlist, nikatengeneza same thing. So before every Kenyan event, people would ask for playlists.
And where do you share your playlists?
I share on my Twitter, on my Instagram, and WhatsApp. But that was way before Ongeza Volume. Like ilikuwa on my personal pages.
And so for a person who I had tried to curate a playlist.
You tried to create a playlist?
I'll try the first few episodes we did. We used to play some music and stuff. So I tried to curate a playlist. But una keeping aje consistency juu after 2 playlists
unachoka.
I was for 2 playlists nisema fuck this shit.
I think on my Spotify profile niko na should be 14 public playlists. So I think motivation ya hizo playlists ilikuwa events in the beginning. Like if an event is about to happen, in a curate playlist. And then after events, outside of events sasa, ndio ikakuwa a bit challenging.
So how unaweza advise aje mse mwenye akona hiyo like anataka maybe to create this playlist, how can they go about it?
How to create a playlist?
How to maybe even to do for easy playlists most of the time naonanga nika they go commercial sometimes.
They do.
I
have seen people advertise them on Instagram. but I don't really know how especially in Kenya.
In Kenya.
Unajua kuna a lot of features Spotify nimerealize you can't really commercialize them in Kenya currently. So maybe in the next few years we're going to commercialize this playlist, but for now I don't think there's an avenue to commercialize yet.
So like making playlists and going to these events it'll form like the background, the basis for
because it was out of just love your music, because I'm obsessed about music so much. So now with attending events ndo sasa ikakuwa more concentrated on the Kenyan side. And
so for these playlists, like kuna venye what feedback did you get, maybe did you like get feedback from even artists ama ilikuwa just from the people?
Let me think.
Ama nini juu
initially I'd get feedback from my people, my friends and my audience on Instagram mostly. But recently just immediately before Ongeza Volume and during Ongeza Volume ndio sasa wasanii wakaanza ku notice that ina add mangoma zao kwa playlist. I actually did not know that when you add a song to your playlist the artist is usually notified.
Niliwaona hiyo mtu akisema
because msali ni tag, actually the artist is called Gavin. He's a Kenyan artist. Alinitag akaniambia thank you for adding my song on your playlist, and I was like, what? So you guys can actually see when we're adding your songs to our private playlist. Suko manze. Labda mtu ametengeneza playlist ya
kuna artist nilionanga akiongelea how aliyekuwa anaonyesha utoto screenshots of plays zenye ameadiwa mara sijui some suicidal stuff and all that.
Kuna some sad playlists out here. Hata sisi tuko nazo za sad nigga hours.
Hizo ni private.
Hizo ni private.
So umekuwa approached maybe by an artist ama an outfit, a label or something to collaborate on a playlist?
Collaborate not essentially, but I think a few artists have asked me to add their songs on my playlists, which is weird. Like just your story. Like, but what I do currently, my playlists zenye sio za events ni za moods. Like I have a good morning playlist, I have a psych playlist, I have a genre based playlist. So I can't just add any song to any playlist. Na feel ni kama kila playlist iko na vibe yake. There's a vibe and a mood to every playlist. So hata ukini approach, I have to listen to your music vizuri, nijiulize hii inaingiana na which playlist, ama do I need to create a playlist specifically for that.
Yenye itakuwa like around your theme.
Exactly. Like there's one that I'm working on for female artists in Kenya. Akina Rosa, Only Rosa, Kina Sero, just female artists when they have really good music, but sijai make public.
But, so you na nini lini? Release lini?
Very soon. Nangoja inspiration because iko ni vile tu sijai make public. Because I like to, before I make a playlist public, I consume it severally. I listen to it for a few weeks.
Do fine tune.
Exactly. Ni edit whatever, make it flow, and then sasa I make it public and I'm like, I think now people can consume this.
Kuna swali kijana.
So ulikuwa na maswali 1 million. Tunaanza na playlist sai like
so tuambie you are one of your jams. Spotify yao inafanya.
One of my jams. Yes, mangoma ziko available on all platforms.
Niambie.
Okay, sasa playlist gani? Si mwende kwa profile yangu
kwa YouTube.
Choose hapana. Sasa from which playlist? Okay, let me think.
Nini yao
Eka Zimenishow.
Zimenishow?
Ya Umoja Sounds na Mutoria.
Zimenishow.
Yes.
Mutoria?
Na Umoja Sounds.
Sawa. When we come back tutaongelea about the process, your creation process. Ulianza when nini ilikupush uanze and wacha tusikia Umoja Sounds featuring
Mutoria.
Yes.
Yeah,
and we are back with Abigael, Ongeza Volume.
Damn. Ongeza Volume.
Leo tuonekani sisi. Tutakuwa tukileta more
important guests.
Tutakuwa tukileta more female guests ndo tusikae kwa kamera. So we were talking about curation, you making playlists, yes. Sharing them online. Then did you start getting like if when you watu kuambia, oh, you should start a podcast, you should start this, you should start that, ulikuwa una get such messaging from people?
Yeah, because I think naturally I'm just a storyteller. So nilikuwa naenda maybe events and I experience something, and then after the gig I just sit with my friends and I'm like, hey, say hii gig ilishika, and then I'm giving details. If it's my sister, I'm telling her the details of how the event went, msanii mgani aliperform, and then eventually people are like, this is Wanzishe 2 podcast. And then I remember what brought the spark ya history ya podcast. You remember Soulfest ya last year?
Ile yenye ilikuwa hapa KICC.
Yeah, there were some elements of the event that were a bit underwhelming.
Sana, yeah.
So after that, kulikuwa na ile furia, I need to talk about this.
To say something.
So the next morning after the event, I went to my Instagram stories. Nikaandika paragraph nzima ya point from 1 to 10 niki explain
what worked,
my
what did not work,
my opinions about the event, how I felt about the event afterwards. Ikafika point nikachoka kutype, nikaeka blank screen and then I just started talking. Nikaanza kurant kwa stories niki explain like the details, nikisema this should have been done better, nini. And then a friend of mine called Kadin, she had a podcast at that time. It's still there. She has a podcast.
I saw that episode.
Yeah, through my Lenses podcast. So the same day, on Sunday, after nimerant hiyo asubuhi yote, she gives me a call in the afternoon and she's like, hey Abby, ni kama you have a lot to
something to say.
Yeah, and I think I know what we should do. Ebu come to record episode ya podcast yangu.
Whatever.
Alafu we can now air out our views about what the event was about.
And also as an aside, kuna venye you've been maybe not in the industry per se, but you are private with the information about like how events work. You've been like on the side emergency services. So Bona, like there are so many niches you can approach the nini. There's a lot you can do. But why events? Like why do you saizi like hii ni kitu kumonetize si rahisi, si ndio?
Yeah, it's true.
Also the friction with people. So why events and not something else like interviewing these people, interviewing artists? Why did you like start there?
Initially nilikuwa nianze this is about the podcast.
The pod,
it just started as a hobby. Ni story nataka kuambia wase vile event ili happen. And I feel like events are something that I love attending. Attending events is like my top favorite things to do. That is events that have good music though. Jukuna events zenye ziko shady out here. So I just developed a habit ya ku filter through events. I identify an event I want to attend and I attend. If I enjoy the experience, I will want to talk about it. So initially, even before the podcast, what I'd do, I would post videos of the event on my Instagram stories. And if I had something to say, I would type it. I would type it out. Gani kutoka kitambo, since I started attending, ata etana uko ma 20s sijui which year, I'd post videos and write my comments about them. So I feel like I've always been doing this. The only difference nimeamua tu vocalize.
So
because people are like they don't want to see this just for 24 hours because mse akikosa kuview stories so I just decided documenting it would be a good place to start.
So you get a call from that lady wa your podcast.
Yes, from Kadin. And then she asks me to join her for an episode, a random episode. So I went we went to her office actually, job yake on a Sunday. Hakuna mtu kwa ofisi nzima. ni sisi tu. We sit down and we're like, okay, what do we want to say? Tukachukua kitabu, tukaandika point by point by point. So we started with an overview of how the event was and the outlook and all that, the arrangement, and then now our opinions about the events. Yeah. And then we posted it, and then people are like, oh my god, you have a podcast voice. We think you would do good with a podcast. So I think since then your idea ya podcast imeanza kutoka hapo.
Oh yeah, juu kwanza hii podcast si rahisi.
Yeah, like you can imagine from December 2022, like the idea has just been boiling, and I did some research, and then I just gave up. I was like, nah, I'm not ready.
So the first episode ili drop lini for the podcast?
I think it was in the first week of June. I remember I think a week or two before we'd gone for Costa Ojwang's Nakili sessions at 254 Beer District. Nakili sessions ni one of those live events curated by Mutoria. So after Costa Ojwang's gig, I met African Kodo. He's creative as well. He runs Sana Kwa Sana.
Nimesikia hiyo sana kwa sana.
Yeah, Sana Kwa Sana. And I was telling him vile tulikuwa hapa actually mimi Kadin and I think Eve. And he was like, if you have an idea to start a podcast or to start whatever, you should just go ahead and start with whatever you have. Ukianza kuplan ukisema, oh, I don't have
You're
this,
waiting for
I don't have this,
yeah.
I don't have this, you will never start. So he gave me a deadline. Akaniambia by the end of May, June ikianza, make sure umedrop kitu. So nilidelay by like a week, but I eventually did it. So I can say yeye ndo alinipea hiyo like push. Kaniambia just start. Funga macho na uanze juu utaanza ukianza. Sijui logo, sijui microphone, sijui where answer.
There's always a problem somewhere.
Yeah, there's always a problem somewhere. So I think the problem for me was to get to start. So once I started, things just really flow too. Yeah.
And why like Ongeza Volume mbona like hakuna any like
the podcast name? Yeah. It's a very funny story. But every time nasemanga funny story, it's not a funny story. So we created a whole list of podcast names. Mimi, my friends, and okay, I'll mention my sister so many times.
Yeah, shout out yeah.
Did you anakwanga na mimi all through this journey. So we had like 15 names. They were so funny. I don't know if I can get your list. Ya majina. Nilikutumianga. I don't know. Nilikutumia. Yeah. Like 15 names, and we were gonna choose from them. Some of them were funny, some of them were like sarcastic and all that. So after asking my friends to choose their favorites, and then I was left with like 3. Ongeza Volume was not part of them. So I was like, easy majina, wacha I'll sleep on them. The next morning, don't touch agua. So the next morning, we were watching, I think, a live show on YouTube. We are always watching a live Kenyan gig on YouTube. Yeah. Tukaweka live gig on YouTube. We were in Nyeri. And then the volume ilikuwa kidogo. So I told my sister, tibu ongeza volume. And then I was like, wait
a minute.
Hold up, because I always love listening to my music loud. At a movie nikiwatch na watching in a volume mob sana. So I was like, wait. Yes, inaweza kuwa jina fiti. And then I didn't even consult anybody from there. I just decided to go with Ongeza Volume. I think
you're the benchmark and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think your process ilikuwa poa, then you just follow your heart.
Yeah. From there, because unaanza na options mob, and then whatever just strikes you, you're like, okay, I'm going to go with this. Yeah.
So your process ya create inakuanga aje?
My process ya create. So huwa nazi-release after every 2 weeks. Najipatia hiyo time.
Si tulikuwa tumejiweka pressure jo. Like a week.
Yeah, every week. No. Okay, I sat down and I was like, I don't think I'll manage weekly because I have an 8 to 5 to anze hapo. I have school and then I have the podcast. So niliji time nikasema when will I be comfortable to record? And then, after 2 weeks, I have attended a lot of events. Because I attend events like within the week. Normally on Tuesday kuna sijui Nakili sessions.
And how like do you select which events? Unajuanga je hizi events ina happen?
I think over time since like 2 years ago nilikuja kurealize kuna events zenye zi happen frequently. There's a guy called Rogers, yeye ndio who curate Zote Face na Legeza Drum. Those are events for purely Kenyan artists. Zilikuwa zinafanyika different venues. Last year kuna time ilikuwa inafanyikanga Captain Terrace. That is where I attended a lot of Hornsphere events. And then this year some venues zili change. So I saw kuna Legeza inakwanga 254 district. And right now Zote Face is at NSK. Nairobi Street Kitchen. So these happen once in a while. So I don't know, I just started digging your rabbit hole, your events.
Yeah, and maybe if you go one event, get information for the
about
next one.
About another one. If you get to follow a person who posts events, you'll get to know other events and all that. And then I eventually landed on knowing who the curators are. So after you know the events, after you get to know and interact with the curators, but initially niki-interact na curators, nilikuwa na interact na wao nikitafuta biashara ya ambulance.
Oh yeah. Like the curators are those people who are who
organize
those
events. Yeah.
So you're looking for them for business.
Exactly. So my initial point of contact was, by the way, we can partner in terms of, ambulance services and all that. But eventually, after following them for a while, I started attending those events, regardless of whether they give me business or not. So with time nikajua sasa Monday kuna hii, Tuesday kuna hii, Wednesday kuna hii, Thursday kuna hii, Friday kuna hii, Saturday, Sunday, like that. So now depending on which artist is playing, then nitakuwa like, okay, maybe nitaenda hiyo event. Sometimes I go out of curiosity. I'm like, okay, I don't know this artist, but I want to sample. And then I look at their music on Spotify and I'm like, okay, hii music inakanika naweza sikiza. And then I go, once I consume it live, because there's some music zenye ukisikiza Spotify, skiza na bo, but ukisikia the live rendition you're like, okay, I think I can listen to this.
Okay, so tutasikiza ngoma moja Mutoria, then utasuggest the other ones as I play.
Uneka gani ya Mutoria?
Pressure.
Ka Pressure. Nasero.
Then when you come back,
fun fact, nilikuwa kwa video shoot ya ngoma bado haijatokea lakini hiyo ni snippet msambie Mutoria.
So when we come back, we'll talk about niaje easy. How do you maintain neutrality when una review events na music, and what friction imeleta to you with time? So sisi kama creatives tunakuwa very touch when it comes to feedback.
Mko na ma feelings.
Mbaya sana.
It's true.
We'll address that when it come back.
Sawa.
Sorry. We're back. So where were we? How do you maintain neutrality when you are reviewing your events, and how are you events and music? How do you maintain, you don't become partial at unasema event ilikuwa normal because these people are these people, and what conflict ume get conflict juu unajua venye sisi creatives tunakuanga very sensitive. Hata I remember hiyo ilikuwa itoaje event yenye ili happen juzi ya Boys to Men. Kuna venye watu walisema event haikuwa haikuwa na sound power. Watu wakaanza kuambiwa you are broke and all that stuff. Nyinyi mlienda regular. So how do you maintain your neutrality when you are reviewing these events, and kuna any friction may come from your work that you've done so far?
So being neutral si rahisi. It's not easy because when I started out I was a fan girl. Like nilikuwa ule mtu wa kuscream kwa ma videos, like kama napenda msanii, I'm like crazy all over the place. But starting the podcast meant I don't have to scream for my favorite artists and all that, and I also have to listen to what wenye see my favorite artists as well. So it has kind of like a downside and an upside. The upside is you get to discover more talent ukiwa na a neutral perspective, because nikienda gigs za wasanii wenye napenda solo, I won't discover other good talents out here. Like an example is juzi tumeenda gig ya Afri Nation. There's a lady called Hilda Watiri. She was performing. The only song I'd listened of her ni Kamware yenye amefanya na Modest Chabari. But she's a really good performer, and the best thing was it was her first time performing live as well. Yeah. It was her first time. So ningesema mi sijui Hilda ni nani na nikose kuenda, I'd be like ninge miss out. And then now the other question ilikuwa
kuna hiyo nini your work, the friction.
Friction. Okay. So sijapata friction from the people I have mentioned directly from the podcast, but I've gotten friction from their friends. So which episode was it? It was episode 2. Niki review Test of KE. Test of KE was an event ya Ogopa versus Caliph. Ilikuwa like a
episode
battle
Madaraka week.
Yes, Madaraka week.
Madaraka week events.
Yes, Madaraka week events. So uko ndani kuna some controversial, not so controversial, but I expressed my displeasure with some things of how Test of KE went, but according to the organizers it was successful. But mimi nilikuwa naona there are some things that could have been done better. Yeah. So some of their friends and my friends were like kuna vitu zenye ulisema zenye kidogo you could have phrased them better or something. But I feel like with time you get to learn how to handle such situations. Kuna always a better way to express your views.
So like looking back in hindsight, uliona how ungedeal aje na your feed, express aje?
Ninge word better. So with time I decided to, look for better words to express myself, that is. Yeah, so more expressive words. So I had to do like more research on how to express myself na words, like how can I put it better. Isi kama nina hate because my intentions are pure. But mwenye anasikiza hajui that exactly. Mtu mwenye anasikiza for the first time atashanga ude mbona ana hate sana. Mbona ana hate sana. So I had to learn to express myself better. Yeah.
So on this journey, the creative, like creating journey.
Yeah.
Like hizo ndo kuna some of the things hizo ndo umekam ukirealize, like
you learn on the way
to talk like to nini better, to research, to, and one of the things yenye most of us tuna dealing nazo ni imposter syndrome, and like how to push your episodes. Ama una feel like this episode is not good enough, what you recorded is not good enough. How do you deal with that?
I'm still learning. I'm still learning because episode 4 and 5 have been the hardest. Juu najua 1, 2 na 3 zilikuwa like trial. You're not even sure if anybody is listening to you. But after nimejenga make a small audience, and then now they have expectations. Especially after Blankets, because Blankets happened on was it a Sunday? On a Sunday. On Monday, people are already DMing me asking me for a review. Mimi hata sijaanza hata kurecord sijui episode sijui for I haven't even started gathering my ideas. So the pressure that came with people are actually anticipating to hear what I have to say.
And as a creator, like your feedback is very good.
It's really good, like but it's scary.
How does it make you feel? Like your podcast is relatively young, all that stuff. Like how do you feel get all that feedback from these people? Even like your feedback kukushow or you did not express yourself good. It's feedback. It means people are listening.
Yes.
So how does it make you feel like in your creation journey?
When I began, it was ilikuwa by surprise. I was like, oh, people are actually listening to me. And then with time, when I get feedback, I really treasure it, whether good or bad. I'm like, you have taken your time to listen to me, and you have internalized what I have said up to a point where you're now telling me what you think about the podcast. So one I treasure sana, and I like listening to what people have to say about the podcast, because at this point I'm getting feedback from both listeners and
Listeners,
artists.
uh-huh,
Yes.
uh-huh.
So huwa nasikiza on both sides, and then they help me become better. So the next time I am doing an episode, I have some of the things in mind.
Or
I'm like, maybe somebody requested 1, 2, 3, or maybe somebody asked me to say
Do
this,
this,
or I can do this better. I read that I can do this in this way. Because initially in the beginning, I'd just say something is good. Like, oh, it was good. Like, without even expressing myself. Oh, it was good. And then I had to learn to express.
or you tell how
Yeah,
maybe
like I have
kubamba
to
na hiyo event,
manze. So it's just been a learning process all through. But feedback is really good. I really appreciate you guys for feedback. Naongelesha my people hapa.
Yeah. So
Go live.
So for the nini for what was that question? So how you umekuwa in the event space, like umekuwa ukienda for a while, going to these events, how have things changed in like the Kenyan scene? Imechange aje over time, as from the time ulikuwa ukienda these events, pandemic, post pandemic, nini imechange, and what has been changing like on even the consumption trends of Kenyans when they are consuming their music?
Initially, okay, I think I can speak for Kenyan music. I can speak for after COVID, because nakumbuka after COVID when we went for Soulfest. I think Soulfest was my first event yenye ilienda after kufunguliwa. Sound ilikuwa mbaya. Hadi tukaanza kujiuliza kwani hizi vitu zili rust. Zili rust zikiwa storage manze. But I feel like since then it has been a slow but steady upward trend. And nimekuwa interact na a couple of artists, and they're telling me if there's a generation that is going to save the Kenyan music, the Generation Z. Because one thing with Gen Z, they have started embracing the upcoming Kenyan artists.
Jupia si tukianza hii show, when tulianza kucheck out music, we saw that kuna music for like for any artist, like for any genre.
There's a genre for everybody. Yeah. So na feel ni kama when you start with your small audience, it will grow with time. So I feel like Kenyans have started now embracing the Kenyan music culture. Pole pole, it's not shouting and all that. But if you visit these spaces, hizi ndogodongo zenye nawaambia like kina 254 district, kina NSK, these small curated events. Recently there's actually Tesi Washira ameanzisha Kenyan Peak, and the attendance is massive. Massive. Na si ati ni watu my age ama older, it's these young people. So I feel like there is actually hope for the Kenyan music. Like we are headed in a very good direction. Juu wase wameanza kuembrace your music, that tuna convert one people at a time. So eventually kila mtu atakuwa anasikiza Kenyan music, and it's good Kenyan music.
Yeah, by the Jew,
it's very good.
The production value, even like see, kuna time you used to think at Kenyan music ni like haina any production value, like haja produce poa ama they're not singing good. And even these indie artists, very small artists, are doing like incredible work. Even the live shows, ukienda the live shows for these people, unapata ni very very good stuff that's happening there. So I think with time naona hata mimi like nimeona kuna those changes that are happening.
It's really beautiful to watch. It's hopeful kabisa. Kuna mtu hapa aliniambia kuna swali sijui kama aliuliza. What's her name? Junior Amolo. She's asking, do you like have to attend all events, like literally? Because now we expect you to make a review of all events. Oh my, it's a really tricky question. Huwa na feeling ku attend events zote, by the way. I usually feel like if I see an event, I want to go.
You want to be there.
Yeah, I want to be there. I want to experience it. But kuna times circumstances azikubali ni attend. Either I have work or I have school or whatever. So it becomes really difficult for me. But if I had the capability, trust me, I would attend all events. So mkiona kuna event yenye sija-attend, mjue tu ni circumstances zilifanya nisi-attend. Because basically I'm at almost every Kenyan curated event these days. Most of them wezi nikosa hapo mbele. Actually tukiwa Nairobi Guitar Festival, I overheard a chile behind me akiambia beshte yake, unajua udema na kuanga mbele kwa events zote. And I was like, guy, nimefika hiyo point. Nimefika hiyo point yenye wasa na ni recognize na hata siwajui. It's crazy. But I enjoy it. If it's something I enjoy, I don't really mind doing kabisa.
Victor alikuwa anauliza.
Yes, Victor.
Alikuwa anauliza how do you alikuwa anauliza the affordability of this nini of like una affording aje?
Oh. How do I afford to attend all these events? Oof. I'm just coming on a spoon. But anyway. Something that people don't know is most of these events are free. Tuanze hapo. The trick question inakuanga, how do I get there and how do I live? Hiyo ndio swali yenye najiulizanga. What is the proximity of this place to where I live? How much is it going to cost me? If it makes sense financially, I'll definitely attend. Do most of these venues kwenda na mat ni kaso. Nikicalculate like from job to tao to venue ni so. Kurudi almost the same thing. The only question now is like security. Is it safe? So that another trick is now to have a group of people. Makosa nilikuwa nafanyanga kitambo, I used to go to events alone. But I like with time I think I grew my own clan ya wase wanapenda the same music. So we started attending events together, so it became safer.
So kama tunaenda host up. Tuli host Jerry msanii? Hapana. That friend. Jerry wangu. Oh guy. Tulimhosting some time ago.
Jerry anakonga kama ka backpack kangu. Tukienda event tunaendanga pamoja. So with time I developed my clan, akina Sumar, kina Eve, kina people just music lovers, recently Sibia. So after una develop clan, mna move sasa pamoja. So it's a bit safer to go to such events together. You don't necessarily have to cab to and from if you can't afford. Ukifika kwa venue itisha tu maji or something. If you don't have money, you don't have to buy something. Njoo sio kuna ile pressure ya wase wana order drinks.
Una speak his language. Speaking his language.
Unafika venue wase wameorder mizinga kwa gig manze. Uko like hey pressure ni mbaya. But acha mkusho kama umeenda venue juu ya muziki, you won't mind kukabili. Juu kuna places hata wakuulizangi unakunywa nini. You will just sit and enjoy the music. Mimi kuna places nimeingia na hakuna kitu yenye nimebuy. Nimeenda tu uko juu ya muziki. So it just you to uji self control because hata wewe uko na your own financial goals as an individual. Ukishajitemu ukijua ni muziki imenileta hapa, you'll order maybe your water for like millions, 200 ama yonga ngapi, 300 or whatever. You drink it pole pole. Ikifika masaa za nyumbani, you go home. Mimi hata sikangi for DJ sets. These days I don't think naweza sikiza hata muziki except for DJ Nick, Kenyan music. Woo.
So kuna some artist hapa alinitumia 3 jams. Wacha mtanishow the venye mna feel about them.
Oh, you want us to live review music?
Live review.
Wow.
So anaitwa Lin Mure. Chawacheni tuzi live review.
What's the name of the song?
Ya kwanza inaitwa Unanimaliza.
Okay.